Hello, hello out there, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well wherever you are. Welcome to the Psycho Nerd Podcast. And, you know, it's been a long time, hasn't it? It's been a long time since I've actually done a podcast on my channel. It's been a few months now, as a matter of fact. So I kind of wanted to do this podcast right here as a way of kind of talking a little bit about what I've been doing all this time and pretty much what I have in mind going forward for the podcast. Now, for the record, I apologize for the breathing in and the constant. I apologize ahead of time because I've gone back and listened to my recordings, and apparently I am very bad about that whenever I do my own podcast. Maybe I'm being overly critical. I don't know. It irritates the crap out of me when I go back and listen to it. So I've actually, this is like the 10th time I've tried to do this recording. I'm not even kidding about that because I am trying so hard not to make these noises. They irritate the crap out of me. But then I feel like, well, you know what? Maybe I'm being a little too overly critical. So I don't know. Well, maybe I am. Who knows? But where have I been for the past so many months? Well, so many months ago, my brother over at the almost at the Psycho Nerd podcast, the Josh Zodiac podcast. He's been doing a podcast for well over a year, and he actually invited me to join him and his friend Charles for the his WrestleMania prediction and review video back in April, which was a lot of fun. I gotta admit, I appreciate the invite. I really did, and all three of us together, we've had a lot of fun with that. And I figured it was going to be like a one and done kind of thing, but apparently he invited me to stick around, and he started doing like a weekly podcast, mostly talking about wrestling. But over the past so many weeks, it's kind of slowly changed and evolved from doing Raw and SmackDown reviews. We still do the PLE reviews, of course, and then he's also thrown in a little bit extra here and there. He did a Superman review with his friend Scuba Steve. Him and I did a Fantastic Four review last week. We actually talked about the Mortal Kombat 2 trailer when it dropped a couple weeks ago. So it's changing, it's manifesting, and quite frankly, personally, it's been a lot of fun to do that. But it was not my intention, and on my channel, to be neglectful and not do anything, not make any new content. As I'm always telling them, is that ever since I went back to work after my knee surgery, which is finally healed up, I work a lot of hours. And between going to work and spending time with my son on my days off, I got to be honest, I just don't have a lot of free time. So, but as my brother made a very interesting point recently. He told me that if you want to succeed at something like this, you have to try to find the time. No matter how tired you are, you have to find the time to do it, and you have to keep putting out content. If you want to succeed, you got to keep doing it. So it's like I already knew that, but it was nice to kind of hear it, from somebody else. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I want to do better with my channel. I want to continue making some content and try to do it on a regular basis. So apologize for my voice cracking. Where's my water? Let me take a swig of water real quick. Hold on. Ooh, that's good agua. Anyway, so a couple of things I wanted to discuss about what I want to do going forward. Now, since I'm mostly talking about wrestling over on his channel, I feel like I don't think I'm going to want to talk about wrestling on my channel anymore since we are already doing that. We're covering the PLEs. We do talk about any major news that are going on. We did one a few weeks ago on both Saturday Night's Main Event and Evolution. So my thought process going forward is if I'm already doing wrestling over there, then I don't necessarily have to do it over here. I could see maybe in the future if there's a subject that I want to discuss that we don't discuss over there, that we just don't get around to, whatever the case may be, then maybe, yeah, I could see doing it over here. But I'm going to pretty much, I would say going forward, I wouldn't expect to see any wrestling content on my channel unless one of those situations arises. So if you take that out of the equation, then the only other thing left that I want to talk about on this podcast, since I am a nerd, that only covers two other aspects of my nerdness. Is that a word? Nerdness? I don't know. that being video games and movies. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be concentrating on going forward with this podcast. As far as do I have any specific agendas, any specific ideas? Yes and no. Uh, if I had a little bit more time to play with, which I'm doing I'm doing what I can to try to make that an actual reality at this point. There are some things going on in my personal life that pertain to my dad that might actually push that in the direction, in that particular direction, I should say. But I won't get into that right now. I don't want to get too specific about it. But in the end, if I had a few more hours a day during the week, or a few more hours a day every day, moving forward, this wouldn't be so hard. Because initially on my podcast, I talked about wanting to do what I called a weekend review, where I just kind of talk about all the new movies that I typically will watch on a weekly basis. Because whether it's going to the theaters to watch a new movie, watching a movie from my collection of movies that I haven't gotten around to yet, that I've never seen before, or just anything that comes out on streaming. Case in point, I saw Happy Gilmore 2 recently, and I'm working on a review for that. On my first and second impression on my YouTube channel. So that initially is what I wanted to do, a weekend review, but because of time constraints, I don't think that's really in the cards. But I feel like I can turn that to, instead of doing week, I can do month in review. And that's something I wouldn't mind doing. A lot of the YouTubers that I like to watch, a lot of them tend to do exactly that, where they do videos where they talk about all the movies they saw during the month, they talk about them briefly, and they rank them usually from worst to best. And that's kind of what I want to do here. But since I already have so many different ideas that I want to do on my YouTube channel where I'm in front of the camera for the podcast, since I'm only using my voice, I thought, well, going forward, I thought maybe I could just do that here instead. So that is something that I am toying around with and want to try to do. And yes, I do keep track of every movie that I watch every month. So it wouldn't be difficult for me to go back and just remember what movies I saw. It would just be a process of me taking all the movies, going through them, and remembering as much about them as possible so that I can talk about them and then go through the process of ranking them. So we will see how that goes. That is definitely something I want to do. Now, aside from talking about the movies that I watch every month, the other aspect being video games, I gotta be honest, in the last couple of years, I don't game it up as much as I used to. And believe me, anybody who knew me back when I was a kid growing up, if I wasn't playing a video game, they probably started wondering, okay, who are you and where's my brother? You know what I mean? Because I was all about the video games as a kid. So much so that I look back on it and I feel like, I was kind of a one track mind there, wasn't I? But, it is what it is. You grow up, you learn, you see things differently. I still play video games on occasion, just nowhere near as much as I used to. But one thing about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I came up with the idea of wanting to take my favorite video game franchises throughout the years and actually go through all of the games in said franchise, just for the sake of doing it. And also because some of my favorite franchises have so many different games that I haven't actually taken the time to play through yet. It happens. Like, give you an example. I'll run through a couple of the main ones. Mega Man X. I have actually started that one. I've already made it to Mega Man X4. I have played 5, or excuse me, 5 and 6. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. 5 and 6 I've done. Never played 7 or 8. I've heard they're not very good, but I feel like I should experience them at least once in my life. Resident Evil is another good example, but that one's a little trickier. That one, you have the original 3 games on the PlayStation. There's a lot of other random games that are like spin-offs and, various different characters. So for that one, I'm just going to concentrate on the main games. The original 3 on the PS1. Then you got all the other subsequent games like 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, everything up until now. And then, of course, the main remakes that have happened. Of course, there's Resident Evil 0, not a remake, but I've still to this day never beaten it. Then you got the remake of Resident Evil, then 2, 3, and 4. So that's a lot of games. I own just about every single game that I just mentioned. Matter of fact, I think I do own them all. a lot of them I just haven't taken the time to go through them yet, and that's on me. So, and I apologize for the chair creaking. My son's asleep in the other room, and I didn't think to grab my little exercise ball. Makes a lot of noise when I'm recording. Sorry. Anyway, so beyond those two, you have the Legend of Zelda franchise, which that one I've done the most, I would say, damage on. Last year, I started playing through. You know what? I started with the for those that know the Zelda franchise, I started playing through the adult timeline. So I went ahead and replayed Wind Waker. I played Phantom Hourglass for the first time, and then Spirit Tracks. Ended that timeline. Then went back to the beginning. Went ahead and played Skyward Sword HD, which I had a copy of that game for a while, hadn't gotten around to playing it. And then I played through a few more games on that timeline leading up to Ocarina of Time, played that one. And then I had a choice of going to either the Child timeline, which only has 3 games, or the Fallen Hero timeline. The Zelda timeline gets pretty complicated. But I started working on that one, and I worked my way through until Oracle of Seasons. Beat that game, and then I went ahead and jumped in immediately to Oracle of Ages. And then I hit burnout. At some point along the way, I just decided, you know what? I think I'm good with Zelda for a little while. I'm going to take a little break. So there you go. But sometime within the last couple of years, I've also touched on my personal video game franchise of all time, that being Metroid. So, and that one doesn't have as many games as Zelda, but I've gone through almost, I'd say about halfway through it. I've played the original game, Zero Mission, Prime 1, 2. I just recently, within so many weeks ago, I finally went through Prime 3 Corruption, which I tried at least a couple different times to play through that game, and I kept stopping for whatever reason. But you know, with the final the announcement last year that we're actually getting Metroid Prime 4 finally after all this time. I won't go into too much on that because I did cover that extensively in my Nintendo Direct podcast. But to say that my anticipation is very high is an understatement. But once I knew officially that it was coming out and we had a somewhat specific date, because they still haven't given us an exact date. They're just telling us 2025 holiday, I think is what they said. So that tells me, you know, November, December, whatever, with the possibility of pushing it off, depending on whether or not it's going to be ready or not. It happens. Tears of the Kingdom actually got pushed a few months. So I don't know. Even though I had tried several times to play through Corruption and kept stopping, I finally came to the realization of, you know what? If this game's going to be coming out soon, I want to get through as much of the Metroid franchise as I can before that game comes out, just for the sake of doing it. So I finally hammered through Corruption. It was a little difficult, and I'll talk more about that later on because there's something else I'm going to get to here in a minute. But I beat that one, and then next in the timeline was Metroid 2 for the Game Boy. Have beaten that game before, and I went ahead and played through it again. It did not take long. Currently, at the time, I should say, of me recording this podcast, I am actually currently playing Samus Returns on the 3DS, which is a remake of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. I gotta tell you, it's been a pretty interesting experience so far. But after I eventually finish that, there are 4 more games for me to get through before Prime 4 comes out. After that is Super Metroid, and then Other M, which for all you Metroid fans out there, who you probably understand what I'm about to say, but I'm not looking forward to finally playing through that game because I've never beaten it. I tried playing it a few different times. I kind of got stuck here and there, and then I just decided, I'll come back later. And that was a few years ago. Matter of fact, that was quite a few years ago. So, with the intent of coming back, and I will knock it out this time without fail. After that is Metroid Fusion, and then finally Metroid Dread, which my friend of mine has been on my ass ever since that game came out. I want you to play it. I want you to play it. I want to see you play it. I want to see you beat Kraid. I want to see how you do this and that because I'm having a lot of trouble with it. And it's like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Trust me, I'll get there. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So since and I'm sorry, that was a very long rant on Metroid there, but essentially where I was going with that is that since I am very heavy on the Metroid franchise right now, what I would like to do going forward is actually do a podcast specifically about the Metroid franchise and possibly these other ones down the road that I can talk about each individual game and my experience with them. But since Metroid is my personal favorite, that one is the one I'm the most passionate about. So that's something that I would expect to probably see sometime in the near future. That's pretty much what I'm hoping for at this point. So I don't know if I could do the entire. I don't think I could do any of these franchises in one single podcast because the first podcast that I put out was me talking about Elimination Chamber, and I got to tell you, I didn't anticipate or nor did I expect for it to be what was it like an hour and a half long. And I went back and listened to it, and I was like, you know what? I could have trimmed that down just a little bit, just a bit around the edges, but but pretty much, I think that's enough rambling about all these different things. This is what I expect that I want to do going forward. Like I said, movies and video games; those are the basic ideas that I have going forward. Anything else that comes up that I want to talk about on my channel, then you know what? I'll do an episode on it. No big deal. But that's kind of where I am at this point in time. Now, that's really all I have to say about what's going to happen with this in the future. But I expected that all of this that I wanted to talk about might not take very long. I'm only barely at the roughly 20-minute mark coming up on it. So I actually had a backup plan to kind of add a little bit more to kind of beef up this podcast just a little bit. One of the most recent podcasts that I did over on my brother's channel, we actually, me, him, and Charles, we talked about the new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer that had just dropped very recently. And we talked about that amongst a lot of other stuff. Now, I thought, you know what? There was a few other things that I wanted to talk about with that movie. Initially, we were going to talk about it a little bit more. He did mention that, but there were a few other things that kind of came up. So we concentrated on as many subjects as we could, and we try to keep things as short as possible. So there was a little bit more about that trailer that I kind of wanted to talk about, but I thought, you know what? Why not add a little bit more to that? So I thought, you know what? Why not talk about my experience, my initial experience with the original Mortal Kombat from 1995 and Mortal Kombat Annihilation from 1997? So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little break here because I gotta go. I'm actually doing some laundry right now. Gotta be an adult. We gotta do the adulting. I'm gonna take a little break and I'm gonna come back and then I'm gonna talk about the Mortal Kombat movies, my experience with them, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the Mortal Kombat 2 trailer that dropped. And I might even talk about the previous film a little bit. So it'll be just a few seconds for y'all, but I will be back momentarily. I will never get tired of that sound effect. Okay, so I'm back, gone a little bit longer than I expected. And I apologize if you can hear my fan in the background. It's a little too warm in this house. My roommate, quote unquote roommate, likes to keep it almost 80 degrees in this freaking house. And we live in South Texas where, it's always hot. It's always hot. So I don't understand that. But anyway, so Mortal Kombat. Quite an interesting history for me personally. I was going to talk just about the movies, but you know what? Let me at least talk about my first experience seeing the game for the first time. I said first twice. I'm sorry. I remember me and mom were at a box office video. She was off going to rent something. I think I'd already picked out a game for the NES or whatever. And I see an arcade cabinet more closer to the front of the store. And at that age, whenever I saw an arcade machine, my eyes were drawn to it. That's how much I loved video games back when I was a kid. If I saw an arcade machine, I had to sit there and watch someone play it if they were playing it. And it's a probably a good thing I did because this was very interesting. I remember walking up to it, the guy was playing, And I remember seeing the letter or the name of the game on the top of the machine, Mortal Kombat. And the first thing that came to mind was that's misspelled. I'm sure plenty of people have made that joke over the years, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Why is it with a K? What the hell? And I love how they referenced that in the 2000, was it 21 movie? That was actually funny. That kind of gave me a giggle. But I'm watching this guy play the game. I don't remember who he was using or who he was fighting against. But what I do remember is he was on the pit, and I'm watching him play through the game, and he's hitting this person, and I'm seeing pools of blood flying out, and I'm just thinking, wow, I don't think I've ever seen that much blood in the game ever. I mean, this is back before this was really a thing in video games. Back then, most pixelated violence was never that specific. So definitely, it was definitely a new thing. He goes on with the fight. He wins, and then I see the letters "finish him" come across the screen, and I'm like, "Finish him? What?" And then he walks up to him and he uppercuts him. And the guy flies in the air and then falls down and then falls on a bed of spikes and blood just squirting out. And I'll never forget, my jaw dropped. I could not believe I just saw that. So to say that the game made an impact on me literally within the first couple minutes of seeing somebody play it is an understatement. And I'll never forget at the discount cinema that I always loved to go watch movies at over the years, back when it was around. They had a little arcade section, and when Mortal Kombat 2 eventually came out, I'll never forget, people were always crowded around that game for at least a few months after it came out. So definitely it was a big impact back then, right? So soon after they announced they were going to make a movie, I got kind of excited. I was wondering, okay, so how is this going to transition to the big screen? So the movie, and I remember looking up like magazine articles where they're showing the actors, they're showing screenshots of all the different things in the background, the sets and whatnot. So to say that I was getting excited is, yeah, definitely was. I'm sure a lot of people were. Case in point, the day I went to go actually watch this movie, it was at the UA theater that was in Padre Staples Mall. It's now known as La Palmera, and the movie theater doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, like a lot of other theaters in this town. But this is before the days of, obviously, this is before we could go on apps and buy our tickets. This is before there was assigned seating. This was the old days of movies where you bought a ticket, and if it was like an hour and a half before the movie came out, your best bet was to stand in line and wait like everybody else, because oh my god, I can't even talk. The closest you were to the front of the line, the better chance of you getting a good seat. That's how it was back then. So I remember I was there watching the movie by myself, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of different people. Even though I was by myself, I heard a lot of really interesting conversations, people having their theories about how the movie was going to play out. And that was actually cool for what it was. And I'll never forget, we get in, we watch the movie, and you know what? I enjoyed it from the first time watching it. It blew my mind. It was a really fun movie, I thought, And I was happy at the time that it was rated PG-13. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to watch it because, the game is more violent than what we got in the film, obviously. I was happy back then. Nowadays, after it's been what, 30 years? Oh my God, it's been 30 years. Holy shit, 30 years ago. Damn. Yeah, after 30 years, how do I feel about the movie? You know what? I still watch it from time to time, and I still have fun with it. I still love the visuals. I love the music. I love the fight scenes. For me, it's a toss up between Johnny Cage versus Scorpion, or what is it, Liu Kang versus Reptile. I have trouble deciding which one is my favorite because they're both really fast paced fights and they have really good music in the background. So it's, to this day, it's still a toss up. If I had any reservations about the movie, I almost say game. I almost say game. Any reservations I have is that I don't like how Sonya was portrayed in the tail end of the film, where she was, supposed to be this badass character, throughout the first half of the movie. But then when the end comes around, Shang Tsung gets the drop on her like that. It happens off screen. We don't even see it. And then he somehow manages to get her into this weird, sexy leather dress kind of thing for the end. Now, don't get me wrong. She was gorgeous, and I have no problem with seeing gorgeous women in movies. But from a story point standpoint, not only does it make her look like it kind of makes her look weak, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the story. It was unnecessary. Even to this day, I still feel that way. But yeah, the other thing is lack of battle damage. That was one thing that the more I saw this movie, which for the record, this movie ties with two other films for my personal record of 7 views in the theaters. I saw it in that theater, and then I saw it 6 more times at the discount theater. And every time I saw this movie, I started to realize, where's the battle damage? Why is it nobody is bleeding? Why is it nobody is getting scarred up or bruised up or anything? Now I understand it's because it's PG-13. They couldn't have anything extreme. Otherwise, it would have been an R rating. I get that. But that to this day, after 30 years, it still kind of bugs me, especially after I mentioned Liu Kang versus Reptile. That was a drag out fight. It really was. I mean, they were beating the hell out of each other and they throwing each other around. But yet, when Liu Kang shows up to fight Shang Tsung for the final fight, he doesn't have a mark on him. And I'm like, no, bullshit. He should have his face all mangled or some blood coming out. He should look a lot more beat up than he does. He looks like he just got out of the shower or something. Definitely not. I don't know. It always bugged me, and it still sticks out like a sore thumb after all these years. But you know what? I can forgive it because to this day, it's still a fun movie for me, and I still love the Johnny Cage one-liners in the film. They make me laugh so much. So to say that I had a great experience with that movie, absolutely. I still give that movie a thumbs up after all these years. And the movie ended on a great cliffhanger. For anyone who's seen it, you know what I'm talking about. When they ended it, it was like, oh my God, cannot wait for the next movie. Can't wait to see what they come up with. 2 years later. Okay, so 2 years, like a lot of other people, I'm sure, spent in anticipation for how this next movie was going to play out. Eventually, we found out it was called Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Don't know why we couldn't just call it 2, but that's fine. I think I understand why they called it that. That's fine. And my anticipation was at an all-time high for before it came out. Now, one other thing, the time that I was watching this, I watched it at the UA, like I mentioned, but a year later, a new theater opened in town, a little bit closer to the house where I lived at, called Tinseltown. It was owned by Cinemark Theaters. This is the movie theater that I would eventually go to work at for almost 11 years. And when the movie came out, I opted to go there instead of going to the other mall. I don't remember why. I don't know why I did that. It might have been the stadium seating that they had at Tinseltown. Again, anyone from Corpus during that time, you know what I'm talking about. So it was a big deal back then. We didn't have stadium seating, period, in this town. Now they all are, but back then it was a new thing. And for whatever reason, I don't remember why, I ended up getting a ride to the theater from both my mom and dad. And unfortunately, the movie was sold out. Couldn't watch it. I was bummed. Oh, I was so sad. But ended up going to watch it at some other time later. And, throughout my life, whenever mom showed us movies growing up, she didn't show us crap. She never showed us anything that we didn't like, both me and my older brother. Anytime, but there were some times along the way where I saw a movie that maybe I just didn't like it. Back then, I had a very black and white mentality when it came to movies. I like it, I no like it. Like it, no like it. That's it. There's no in between. That's it. So this was the first movie that after sitting in the theater and watching it start to finish, I walked out and I didn't know how I felt about it. I was mixed. I was unsure. And that is where the mentality of the repeat movie viewer began, because I said out loud to myself, I need to rewatch this because I don't know if I like it. And looking back on it, I think I was just in denial. It was kind of like after watching Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace for the first time, where I kept saying, it's good, right? It's good, right? I think it was good. I think I liked it. It was just like that. I was very unsure. But I remember going back and watching it a second time. And within the first couple of minutes, and this is kind of how I felt the first time watching it too, the movie starts out and it's the exact same spot for spot opening of the original film. And I remember thinking in my head, did they put the wrong movie on? What the hell? What's up with did you really do the same opening? I was afraid I walked into the wrong movie or something. I'm dead serious about that. And then, it pops up, the screen, the opening ends, Annihilation, and I'm like, that's the only thing you changed? You couldn't come up with anything new? Okay, sure, whatever. And then they recap the original film. And then the first thing about the movie that rubbed me the wrong way was the fact that there were at least 3 of the actors from the original film got replaced. Raiden got replaced, Sonya got replaced, and so did Johnny Cage. And I remember that turned me off. I couldn't understand it. I was like, you ended the last movie on a cliffhanger. There was no doubt that you guys were going to make a movie if this movie was successful, and it was. So what the hell? What happened? To this day, I've never bothered to look into it to find out why the original actors didn't come back. But okay, that right there was already like a major disappointment right off the bat. That's one of the biggest movie sins for me. I don't like it when actors change from one movie to another. It just bugs the crap out of me. Some cases you have no choice, like in the case of Richard Harris with the Harry Potter films. Hey, the man passed away. We had no choice. We had to replace him. So, and then to be fair, I feel like maybe we got the better Dumbledore with Michael Gambon afterwards, but that, I don't know. That's just my opinion. But I still like Harris for what he did for the first 2 films. Going back to Mortal Kombat, see, I do that a lot. I always go off on tangents. Sorry about that. And then the movie goes on, and I don't like the special effects. I don't like the constant lightning sound effects that are going on. It grades on me. And they use the exact same sound effect the whole entire movie. It's really annoying. The special effects were not that good. And then, what is it? Shao Kahn gets a hold of Sonya. He's holding on to her. Johnny Cage goes in to try to save her. He gets caught, and he fucking kills Johnny Cage in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. That didn't go over well with me. I was like, what the hell? How do you kill off one of the main guys from the original film in the first 5 minutes? But considering it was a completely different actor, I gotta admit, I didn't feel anything. It didn't affect me like I thought it would. Like if it was the original actor, I'd have been bummed. But in this case, it being a new actor, and this is why this doesn't work for me, I feel like it's a totally different character. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, so the idea that you killed off Johnny Cage, that sucks, but I feel like I'm watching a new person, so I give 2 shits. It doesn't hit me emotionally at all. And the movie was just, in my opinion, it was a train wreck. There were so many things I didn't care for, too many characters. Most of them don't even get introduced. Some of them are on screen just long enough to get killed, like Rain. Rain is in the movie for like 15 seconds. He apparently he makes a mistake. Shao Kahn gets mad and he fucking kills him. What the hell? It's like they crammed way too many people into this movie. From Mortal Kombat 3, it was too much. The story was convoluted. It didn't make any sense. The CG was horrible. I could say that after all these years, almost 30 years, maybe I can say Mortal Kombat Annihilation is in the category of so bad it's good. But considering how excited I was after the first movie, this movie, every time I watch it, I remember how goddamn disappointed I was. That's why I don't watch this movie very often, because it's just a constant reminder of how how much I hated this movie after the second time watching it. Like the first time to the second time, like I said, I was in denial. I was lying to myself. I knew the movie wasn't good for me. I knew it, but I had to be sure. And that's carried over to me now. That's why on my YouTube channel I have the first and second impression, because there are so many times where I watch a movie the first time and I'm like on like a high, like, oh my God, that was really cool because maybe the ending was really good. I go back and rewatch it and I realize, ooh, that was not as good as I thought it was. Nah, that's not hitting like the way the first time. Mm-mm. And then sometimes it's the other way around. There's so many times I watch a movie for the first time, I can't stand it. But then sometime later on, I watch it again and I fucking love it. Super Troopers is the best example of that. I hated that movie the first time I saw it. Sorry for my voice. I hated it. I thought it was stupid. It is now one of my favorite comedies of all time. I'm not even joking about that. So, yes, Mortal Kombat 2 or excuse me, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, definitely a big disappointment. Yeah, there's nothing else I can really say about that right now. Maybe one day I will do an actual review on it on my channel and go just a little bit more in depth on specific things along the way that I don't care for. But yeah, definitely a major disappointment, especially when you compare it to the first one. And I'll talk briefly about a few other Mortal Kombat media that came out in the 90s. There was a quote unquote animated prequel to the 1995 film, sorry, called Mortal Kombat The Journey Begins. And I remember seeing it on VHS before the movie came out. I did pick it up. To my knowledge, I still own it to this day. I haven't looked through my VHS tapes in a very long time. They're in a box up in the attic somewhere. One day I need to pull them down and look. But I watched it quite a bit back then because I was really anticipating the film. Unfortunately, it hasn't aged very well. It's basically a mixture of like regular type of animation with computer generated animation, which if you've seen anything from the 90s, early to mid 90s, computer animation, a lot of it is not very good. Even by 90s standards, they weren't very good. But watching them today, almost cringe-worthy. But essentially, the point of this whole story was essentially it was the initial story from the film that we got later on. It just kind of told slightly differently. And yeah, and there are like four different fights throughout the story. It's like 40 minutes long that tell the story throughout the years of Mortal Kombat, like how not Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung defeated a monk way back when and took control of the tournament. We have Goro defeating his brother to become the heir to the throne of Shao Kahn, which is an interesting story in of itself. There's also the one where Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight way back when before Scorpion became a Spectre. And then the other fight, the final one, is between Kung Lao and Goro. This is when Goro defeated Kung Lao in the storyline and actually became the grand champion for as long as he was. So the storytelling is not terrible. And I feel like all the budget really went into the voice acting because that is really the only highlight of this whole thing, in my opinion. We do actually get two familiar voice actors. I get two familiar voice actors for me. You got Jennifer Hale, who would eventually down the road voice Samus in Metroid Other M. That yeah, I'll just leave that where it is. And she also does the voice of Jean Grey, most recently in X-Men 97. Haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I'm trying to go through the original series with my son. We're not quite there yet, but I'm looking forward to it. The other actor was Jim Cummings, and if you have watched anything Disney since the 90s, you've heard his voice before. You probably know who he is. He's been doing voice acting work for years, and he's really good at it. So between the voice acting and a little bit of the storytelling, that's really the only highlight here. They keep reusing the same little animation uh bits over and over and over again, and yeah, it gets tiresome after a while. Like the in between the fights and the decent storytelling by Raiden, it gets kind of boring pretty quick in areas. So but aside from that, there was also an animated cartoon I remember this being on USA Network. I forget when it actually released. I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was like 1995, or you know what? It was after the movie, so it had to be like 96 or something like that. It went for one season. I remember watching it just because it was Mortal Kombat, but I don't remember if I liked it or not anymore. I do have a few VHS tapes of that too. They were cheap, so I bought them. Haven't watched them in years. And I do remember, I think it was like 1997, 1998, there was a TV show called Mortal Kombat Conquest. I don't remember that much about it. I think it only ran for like one season, maybe there was two. It was supposed to take place after the initial tournament where Kung Lao defeated Shang Tsung, and it was supposed to take place in the aftermath of all that. Sorry, I just can't shake this. And I don't remember too much about it beyond that. I watched a few episodes. I don't remember it being too interesting, and I kind of gave up on it pretty quick. So there's that. And there are have been some like direct to direct to like DVD or Blu-ray movies over the last few years. I've heard of them, never seen them, so that's the most I'm going to say about that. But we come to the, I guess you call it a reboot in 2021, that being the Mortal Kombat film from a few years ago. I actually went ahead and rewatched this a few days ago because I hadn't seen it in a long time. I saw it when it originally came out. I watched it after I bought it on Blu-ray, and I hadn't seen it since. And I wanted to kind of refresh my memory, not just because the new movie is coming out soon, which I'll probably watch it again before that, just so I can be completely immersed. I like doing that. But I wanted to at least know what I was talking about for this podcast. So upon rewatching it, my initial opinion right now is that it's not as good as I remember. But I'm not going to say that it's bad. It is good. I There's just some things about it that kind of bring down the quality a little bit for me. Some of the storytelling doesn't work for me. It feels like it was a little fast paced, like they were really trying to get to the end of the movie as quickly as they could. Some of the dialogue in the movie kind of feels like bad expo dumping, which I'm not a big fan of. I my storytelling, I like visual storytelling more so over than like, somebody is just telling somebody everything they need to know as quickly as possible. And that's what it feels like when Sonya is talking to the new character in this movie. And I'm sorry, I still haven't memorized this character's name. And he's the other thing about the movie I am not the biggest fan of. I don't have a problem with the actor, but I don't know why we had to create a character who didn't exist in the game world. But I mean, I do, but I don't, because he's supposed to be the descendant of Scorpion, which we do see him in the beginning of the movie. Great opening, by the way. That's one of the biggest highlights of this movie. The opening is so good. The actor they got to play Scorpion, I love that actor. I'm sorry, I don't have his name right in front of me right now, but I've seen him in a bunch of stuff over the years. The first thing I saw him in was The Last Samurai, and I freaking love him in that movie, for real. And yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are some other things about it. Some of the cinematography, some of the camera shooting that's going on, and some of the like landscapes, some of the what's the word I'm looking for? The on location areas that there are look really nice. And quite frankly, we finally get some gore. This is a rated R movie, and we're getting Mortal Kombat on the big screen the way it was always intended, with all the blood and the beatings and the carnage and the, you know what? I'm just going to say it, carnage candy. Gore, gore, gore. Yeah, there's even one particular, I will say it's a fatality. At one point, Kung Lao is being attacked by this like harpy character. I don't know if she's in the games or not. I haven't played a lot of the more recent games, so I'm not completely on the up and up. But spoiler alert, he takes his hat, which, anyone who's ever played the game knows that his hat is like razor sharp. He throws it on the ground and it's spinning like a saw, and he throws her into it and pushes her right through it, and it just cuts her in half. And it's just like something out of what we get from the games nowadays. It's gory as all hell, and it's just like, ooh, damn. The other thing about the movie for me is that some of the CG works, and then sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of a mixture. I don't know. It almost feels like two different companies did the CG, where some things kind of work, other things don't work as well. But you take it for what it is, I suppose. So those are my initial feelings on the 2021 film. I'm unhappy with it. There's just some things about it that could have been better. It could have been a much better experience. I think for me, it's just a little bit more of a serious tone, and it's not as fun as the 1995 movie, but it is good for what it is. And I do also like the idea of how there is a specific way and reason of why all these characters have these like extraordinary abilities, like with Liu Kang having his fire. There is a much better explanation on how Jax gets the metal arms, because in part, Annihilation, he had bionic arms attached to his arms, and then by the end of the movie, he just kind of rips them off like, "Ah, I don't need this. Is all I need right here," holding up his fist, and it's like, if you'd have better, if you'd made his character arc a little bit more interesting, maybe we could have gotten behind that. But as is, it felt eh. It just felt eh. So, but in this one, it's cool and it's crazy. Uh, I am so sorry about that. He gets into a fight with freaking Sub Zero, and Sub Zero freezes both of his arms and just rips them off, and he has no arms anymore. But apparently, they try to attach these like bionic attachments. I said attached twice. Sorry. These monks put bionic arms on him, and he can't seem to use them properly. But then at one point, he goes to help out Sonya, and all of a sudden, his friggin' arms get super bionic, and it's like, okay, you know what? That's a good explanation, and I like the way they did it. It actually makes a lot of sense, and he's able to use them a lot better than before. He's got his confidence back, so very cool. Very much enjoyed that. One of these days, I do want to go into a like deep dive, not just on this movie, but the movies of the franchise. Not to mention, I'd love to do a marathon one day. One thing I would love to do on my channel, my YouTube channel going forward, is do like a marathon style of video where I will watch all the movies. Good lord. I'm sorry. I keep having to clear my throat, and I'm really sorry. I don't know what is going on. It's frustrating the hell out of me right now. I'm trying to finish this thing. I'm almost done here, but and I lost my train of thought. Oh, I would love to go for my channel. I would love to do basically what I would want to do is do a marathon and basically just kind of do it like an intro, like, okay, I'm gonna watch all these movies in unison, and after every movie I will get in front of the camera for about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, and just kind of talk a little bit about it, kind of just talk a little bit in detail about the movie and what I still enjoy. Want to get somebody else, anybody, I don't care who it is, anybody, to join in with me on that, so I can have somebody I can talk to kind of back and forth on. But finding somebody who's got that kind of time and me having that kind of time, it's a bit of an issue right now, but I'm hoping in the future that changes. Oh, and you know what? It just hit me. I just remembered his name. Here, oh, how do you pronounce it? Hiroyuki Sanada, the guy that played Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat film. He was the one I was talking about before from The Last Samurai. He was also in John Wick 4, Bullet Train. He was also in Bullet Train a few years ago. So, yeah, I just had to throw that out there because it felt disrespectful to not at least throw his name out there because I've enjoyed his work in the last few years. Okay, I think that's enough beating around the bush. I think I'm coming up on the 50 mark here, so I think it's about time I start talking about the main reason I wanted to talk about Mortal Kombat in the first place. That being the Mortal Kombat 2 trailer that dropped. So, as I mentioned before, we did talk about it on my brother's podcast a few weeks ago. Uh, Feel free to go check that one out if you're interested. But there were a few other things I at least wanted to mention. As I said, we did kind of gloss over it. So I just want to cover some of the main quick details about the movie, returning characters, new characters, essentially. So for returning characters, for those that haven't seen the movie, I hope I'm not spoiling anything for anybody here, but we got Raiden coming back. We do have Sonya coming back. Let's see. We got Kane, we got Jax, we got Liu Kang, and we got Scorpion. Now, I don't fully understand what Scorpion's capacity is going to be based on how the last movie played out. Get a pretty good impression from Liu Kang on what he's going to be doing. We see him with a lot of fire around him. Jax, not really sure what his deal is going to be in the movie, but and you know what? I'm very confused. I don't understand. Kane, Kano, excuse me. I don't know why I say Kane. Kano, he actually did get killed in the last movie, so I'm a little surprised to see him in the trailer. But I feel like after rewatching the movie, I think there was like one line that was mentioned by Shang Tsung at some point, something about death is a doorway or something like that, something similar to what Vigo the Carpathian had said in Ghostbusters 2, something like that. So I'm wondering if Kano is not the only person who actually got killed in the first film who's going to be making a return, because we don't see anybody else. He's the only one of everybody who died who we see come back. So maybe they're kind of saving a few tidbits. Who knows? Sonya, I'm not really sure what's going to be the deal with her in this movie. Since Johnny Cage, I will mention him in a second, since he's going to be in the movie, I don't expect they're going to do what they did with the original film and have the little love angle between her and him in the movie. I don't know about that, but who's to tell at this point? But I already mentioned his name, so let's talk about it. The main the main character that is being dropped in this trailer that they emphasized at the end of the previous film was Johnny Cage, who is played this time around by Carl Urban, which I don't think this guy can do any wrong between, from way back when and with Lord of the Rings and then Dread. I know he was in, what was it, The Boys recently? Here we go with my damn throat again. I swear, I just can't get rid of that. I am so sorry. So I am very interested in Johnny Cage's character. What I'm getting from the trailer is that he looks like he's past his prime, like he was like an 80s action star, and he's just kind of a has been at this point. So I can't help but wonder if maybe that aspect of his character is really going to be the driving force for him to get involved with the tournament. Because initially, when they tell him that it's a tournament to the death, it's a red band trailer, by the way, so they get away with him saying "fuck that." So it's actually pretty damn funny. And as the trailer goes on, we get a little bit more from him on what he's going to be doing, but we don't see him with any special abilities. So, kind of curious how that's going to play out. Now, more characters that are going to be making their debut in this movie. We got Kitana. We see her briefly, and I got to say right off the bat, I do dig the blue outfit that she's got going on. She does have the fans, and they're actual fans this time. And the fact that she's not only able to throw them around and control them, but at one point, one of them is flying in the air and she does like a spinning kick, and they literally just go right into the wall. So, yeah, she ain't messing around with those things, let me tell you. Shao Kahn actually is going to be in this movie. I gotta say, for what little bit we see of him, he does look good. They do a good job of kind of keeping him in the shadows so we don't get the best look of him. I think that's a good idea from what we see so far. And we already see him in a fight with some random person. I don't know who this person is. And not only does he win the fight, but he ends up sticking this guy through with the handle of his hammer. And he just, like skewers him with it essentially. So I'm kind of curious what his role is going to be in this one as well, since he's supposed to be the higher up to Shang Tsung. We also have Jade. Jade's going to be in this movie. She does have her green staff. They got the costume right. And in the games, there were two different versions of her. There was the, how do you pronounce it? Edenian version, and then of course there was the African American version. I would have been okay either way as long as they stuck to the way she looked in the game. And they go with the Edenian version. I think she looks pretty good. She is bald in the movie as well, so I don't know. We'll see what her role is going to be in this one. At one point, we do see, I want to say it was her and Katana having a little fight together. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to play out. On top of that, we've also got Baraka, which they did try to put him in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, but good lord, the costume was terrible. He looks a lot better this time. At one point, we see Johnny Cage twirling a katana, over and over again, towards Baraka, and it ends up just being completely destroyed because of all the blades that he has. And then we see there's a fight between him and Johnny Cage, and he's throwing a bunch of these. I guess you call them blades or whatever the hell you want to call those things that Baraka has. And Johnny Cage is doing all kinds of flips and jumps trying to dodge them. It looks really cool. We do see a brief, very brief bit of Sindel. We don't really get a good look at her, but we do know it's her because she's doing the scream that she does in the game. So, like I said, I guess they didn't want to show us too much of her, but I remember the way she looked in the original film. The look was pretty good, and I gotta say, the actress that played her was. mm, mm. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that. So, as far as I know, there are a few other characters that are going to be introduced or brought back in this movie. That's my assumption. But at this point, I don't want to watch the trailer anymore. I've seen it too many times already. And quite frankly, I'm hoping they don't bother, even though I know they will, give us a full trailer before the movie comes out in October. I don't want to see anything else about this. I want to be surprised going forward. It's amazing how things change. Back in the late 90s, when I was working at the theater, I used to watch trailers religiously. But nowadays, it's like, well, you know what? Sometimes trailers give a little bit too much away. And I don't want I don't want to know too much about a movie. Sometimes they ruin things, and I can't stand that. A couple other things that I got from the trailer. At one point, it looks like Katana is actually making her fan literally rubbing into Shao Kahn's mask. Like she's not even touching it. It's just sitting there right in front of him spinning, and it's like almost like it's trying to cut into his mask. It's very brief, but it looks interesting. And you know what? There's a section where in the background two people are fighting, and it looks like the portal from, I want to say, part two. It's got a very blue tint to it. I want to say there was, I can't remember if there was a blue portal in the original games. I know there was a red one, but I can't remember if there was a blue one. So I'd have to go back and check on that. But the way it looks in the background as a backdrop, it looks really nice, really colorful. One last thing I'll mention. Uh, it looks like somebody is using Kung Lao's hat in the movie. I'm wondering if maybe they brought back him as well. But I have no clue because we only get to see him for a split second. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't look like the original actor. But again, that's probably just me. Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. But I'm kind of hoping they brought him back because that was one of the biggest bummers of the first film a few years ago, that he died. He seemed like one of the more interesting characters in the film. So I was really like not I was disappointed that he got his soul taken away by Shang Tsung, which also makes me question how they could bring him back if Shang Tsung has his soul. I don't understand that. So definitely the trailer raises just enough questions to spark my interest. So, but you know what? That's pretty much all I really wanted to say about the trailer. I'll be honest, I'm very much excited at this point. I am totally on board with whatever it is we're going to get. Can't wait for it to come out. And I have a lot of things going on between now and before that movie comes out. I'm trying to get as many of my movie reviews up and running as I can. I want to do at least a couple more podcasts between now and then. As I mentioned before, I got a few other ideas I want. So we'll see how things go. Sky's the limit. Try to get as much done as I possibly can. Not to mention the fact that Fantastic Fest for me is right around the corner. For anyone who doesn't know, that's an 8-day film festival that takes place in Austin. I've already gone the last 2 years in a row, and this will be my third one going. So I gotta say, I'm very excited. I'm not gonna talk any more about that. I actually will do another podcast in the future, and I forgot to mention this earlier. I wanted to do a ranking. I wanted to talk about my first year and then my second year and just list all the movies that I saw and try to rank them based on how much I enjoyed each one. To be fair though, that's not going to be as easy as I would like because most of these movies I haven't seen since the original Fantastic Fest, which was almost 2 years ago. So my memory on a lot of these films is a little hazy. And a lot of these movies never got an actual release, so that's a bummer. But I am going to go back and look again to see if any of them are available so I can go back and rewatch any of them. So But I think that's going to pretty much do it for this podcast. I don't have any other subjects to go on. I feel like I'm just rambling at this point, so I don't want to bore anyone to tears. I'll just do a quick little plug for my brother, and then I'll go over my stuff. So for my brother, the Josh Zodiac over at the Josh Zodiac podcast. I'm still doing regular weekly podcasts over on his channel, which you can find him on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. I think there's a few others, but those are the only ones I can remember off the top of my head. I don't have his email in front of me in case you ever wanted to leave him a line, drop him a line or something, but I will get that information and I'll have it the next podcast I do because we're basically plugging each other's stuff, trying to help each other out. So he's definitely got a lot more podcasts than me. So I got a long way to go. A long way to go. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the Psycho Nerd Podcast, currently only available on YouTube. You can just look up the Psycho Nerd Podcast, or if you want, you can go to my YouTube channel, Repeat Movie Viewer. You can definitely find all my content on there. Not only the podcast, but there's a few other things I do as well. Feel free to peek, take a look, see if there's anything you like. There will be more content, movie reviews going forward, a few other ideas I have. But I mean, if you enjoyed this podcast, I greatly appreciate you sitting through the whole thing. If you did enjoy it, hey, feel free to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. On top of any comments, anything you want to say about the podcast, anything you want to add to what I said, maybe anything I didn't mention, any suggestions that you have, hey, feel free to drop me a line because it would be cool down the road to be able to actually do like a video or even a podcast based off a subscriber's or just a random person's desire request. I would love to do that. That would be kind of cool instead of me just coming up with stuff on my own, just kind of, trying to make the fans happy. So, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off at this point. Thank you so very much again. If you did listen to the podcast, be safe out there. Please take care of yourselves, but don't forget to have fun. Just not too much fun.